Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Jerry York, back for our second week of class. Thank you so much for joining us. We are in our second week of counseling techniques. I'm just going to pull up our PowerPoint here. I just wanted to remind everyone, sorry, I'm talking while sharing. I just wanted to remind everyone that we are still under those same expectations in terms of class behavior. Everyone is on camera at all times. Everyone is in a safe and secure and confidential setting, not driving. We're still keeping in mind those important expectations of humility and understanding when other people are speaking, even though if it may not be our own experience, we're able to listen and learn from everyone. So we're going to get into our second module here in terms of building the therapeutic relationship. We're going to go over what's important to have in that first session, informed consent, confidentiality. We're going to then do a little practice role play in class, and then I'm going to send you off to your triads to work on having building that therapeutic relationship and having that first part of that first assessment session with our clients. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about is informed consent. So, informed consent is important in every aspect of counseling. This is something that you are going to give your clients either ahead of time or with them to read over. I have all of my clients fill this out online ahead of time, and then I go over it with them verbally. But informed consent is just that idea of we are informing you of what treatment can look like in terms of counseling, and then you are agreeing to that. You are agreeing to the service of counseling, just like you're agreeing to getting your teeth cleaned or having someone check out if you have flu symptoms. It's the same. It's the same thing. That's that idea, but you will go through different specifics depending upon what type of practice you are in, community-based, school-based. I'll be sure to share with you guys my informed consent that has morphed over time over the last 9 years I've been in private practice for myself. And so just depending upon state laws and federal laws, I've had to shift those and also have attorneys to review those to just make sure I'm covering all of my bases in terms of informed consent. And so we also talk about confidentiality with this. That is part of the informed consent. And that confidentiality I explain as everything that you say in here stays in here. But there are three reasons for me to have to get extra help, whether that be someone in authority in terms of the police or letting a parent know. And that's if you're talking about hurting yourself, talking about hurting someone else, or if someone's hurting you. And so explaining all of that is going to look different depending upon your population. It's going to look different with a 5-year-old versus a 15-year-old versus an older adult. And so we will kind of work on what that verbiage for that and practice, practice, practice. You're going to feel more and more comfortable as you start being able to do that. And so we'll kind of talk a little bit more about that in the future, but those are the important aspects of working that confidentiality in. Although it's in the paperwork, I always go over that verbally as well. So next we will jump to what are we going to do in that first session? What are our goals? What are we looking to accomplish? And so we're going to go out to the waiting room. We're going to introduce ourselves to the client and then bring that client back. We don't have any conversation in the hallway just to avoid any confidentiality issues or whatnot. Have the client call you by your first name. And that's really important just in terms of building rapport. So I'm Jara always, and then letting them come into the office, choose their comfortable seat, whether that's a chair or a couch. We're also going to go over just the ground rules. Let them know what to expect from that first session. And so, yes, there's going to be some information gathering. There's going to be a lot of questions, but we're also going to get to the goals of what you want to be working on as the client. So you're going to go over some of that demographic information, their social support, medical history, history of trauma. All of those things are going to be part of that. And they're just different ways to do that. And you'll kind of get used to bringing your own personality and your way into accomplishing all of that. And we'll kind of talk through what is that like to build rapport with our clients. And so that first session is typically 45 to 50 minutes. You're going over the fees as well as having an emergency contact if they're willing to have that on file. Some clients are, and some clients are not. Um, Before we get into all of that, I'm always explaining confidentiality and informed consent at the start of that session. And so, informed consent can also look like, especially with trauma, sometimes you're going to feel symptoms worse before they get better. And that's an aspect of counseling that some of this is hard, and a lot of it is hard, and it may be unpleasant, but we are going to teach you some of those emotional regulation skills to be able to get through that. I often hear that with my trauma clients that they really liked the days when they didn't have any of this coming up to the surface. However, they were not functioning well in different areas, and so that was not going to last long term. That was not a long term solution. But I talk about that as well. Confidentiality, we kind of went over, and we will practice doing that in our role play and then also in our triads. So another important aspect of that, after we're getting through some of the demographic information, um, and family history, et cetera, are some of these questions to help you form your treatment plan and your goals. So we will have a lot of time to go over forming treatment plans, going over case conceptualization, but here's some ideas just to get you guys started when you're thinking about that first session in terms of goals. I like to ask, what brought them to counseling at this time? Like, what has kind of converged in their life that it seems like counseling would be a good option for them and would be something that would be helpful? And then you're kind of attending and reflecting back what you're hearing. Another question I like to ask is, how will we know that we're making progress in what we're working on? We will set up these goals that are realistic and manageable and specific, as what we will talk about in the future. But how will this person individually know that we're making progress? Because ultimately, it's up to them that they want to see progress. So, what does progress look like in terms of reducing their anger, or what would progress look like in terms of reducing their anxiety when they're going to work? What are they expecting? And so, because sometimes clients are expecting a lot of things that may not be possible. If a client says, I don't ever want to get triggered about something for the rest of my life, then I'm going to have to bring that's not necessarily a realistic goal, but what can we work on in terms of addressing the most bothersome or disruptive symptoms for that. And then towards the end, we're kind of going to give a 5-minute warning to let them know, hey, what else is it for us to know in this first session? We're still going to have plenty of time to complete the rest of the assessment if we didn't get that finished. And we will constantly be checking back in with some of these goals and checking in. A lot of times I open up my subsequent sessions is, what can we be working on today? Because a lot of times something will have brought up something during the week, and so that's what we're doing. I also talk about frequency at the end. What were they expecting in terms of frequency of sessions? And then I explain, I'm here to work myself out of the job, and so ultimately we're going to get to the point that they are more and more self-sufficient. And so that can be titrating down from weekly to bi-weekly, all the way down to maybe monthly. And then there's clients that I still check in with a couple times a year for maintenance sessions. But I let them know that that is my goal. It's not intended to be in therapy forever, and that they can be self-sufficient. And this is just a time that they need a little bit more support. And so we talk through that towards the end, and then kind of plan and book our next session. Another consideration, this is just focusing on, how are we building rapport? Sometimes it can feel like, wow, we have so much to get through in this first session. I've got to kind of pepper them with questions. However, we want everything to be a conversation. We want to go at their own pace, and that the pace that they're comfortable with. Sometimes clients aren't comfortable talking about their trauma at that first session. And so I'm going to honor that, and I'm going to meet them where they are and let them know, hey, I'm here to go at your pace. And so keeping that in mind, we have to control our own anxiety, thinking, I've got to check all these boxes and they want this assessment after this. We have to be able to go at that pace and know that this is an ongoing process, and we will find out more and more as we keep going. Clipboard and computer, that's just kind of mentioning, hey, if you have a computer in front of your screen, in front of that client, that may feel like a barrier, and just kind of knowing what your tools are. And how it feels for someone to truly listen and lock eyes with them. We're going to do a role play. I'm going to have you guys ask me some. I'm going to be the client, and we're going to kind of popcorn around class for you to introduce yourself and go through some of the different confidentiality. Okay, I'm going to call on you, Monica, first. Okay, great job, guys. So this week you're going to get into your triads. You're going to practice that informed consent and rapport building as well as empathy and talk through some of those things. So I'm going to have you guys jump into your triads. I will be here popping in and seeing how everything's going. Thank you so much. Thank you.